Hey folks, welcome back to the channel, your home for all content Lord of the Rings home. Today we're going to do a new sort of series that we're calling Boons and Banes, and it's going to be more like a podcast type series. And today the first guest I have on is TormDK. You may have seen him around some of the official or non-official Discords, but Torm, why don't you introduce yourself and say hello?
Yeah, hello everyone. Hope you all are doing well. Yeah, I'm just a random nobody well that spends a bunch of money on this game and does arena recordings for teams that most people either haven't built or can't build right now. And of course, I'm quite active on the Discord as you mentioned.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you, and we talk a decent amount. And we today want to talk specifically about some more in-depth details on how the star changes are going to affect the economy. Specifically, maybe taking a little bit more of a focus on looking at how this might affect free-to-play, because I think Torm and I both agree here that there's this notion that people are going to sort of suddenly have these 7-star characters and be completely fine in other aspects of the game. But the first sort of graph we have on the screen here that I want to explain is basically a timeline graph. And so you can see on the x-axis here, you got the number of refreshes that you're doing per day. So that's between normal and guild energy. And then on the left axis here, days to level 60. So if you don't do any refreshes, it's somewhere around like 118 or something like that. I don't know the exact number, but close to 120 days to get to level 60. And obviously, the more refreshes you do, the less that takes. But on the right side here, we've got, of course, gems per day for those particular refreshes. So when you're doing max refreshes, you're spending close to about, what is that, $100 per day? Is that right?
Yeah, roughly, yeah.
Yeah. So, Torm, you've been pretty active in tracking when people are going to hit level 60 since global launch. So can you discuss a little bit about that?
Yeah, so and first off, shout out to LOTR for building this calendar we actually use to calculate these things.
Yeah.
But basically, there's been, let's say, 2 release cycles for this game, right? There was the early LTL release, which was the 26th of April, and then of course global will launch the 10th of May. So if we look at what the timeline is for a free-to-play player doing 3 refreshes a day, because that's the most affordable option, they are roughly around level 58 right now. If they started at LTL, and if they started at global release, they are roughly 56. Depends a little on how active, of course, but rough ballpark. This also means that the first free-to-play player to hit level 60 will probably happen in about 10 days time. And for global release, it's going to be roughly 14 days later, so 24 days or so.
That
So
should be after the raids launch. Is that correct?
yes, actually, that timeline-wise, it will probably be very close to, at least for the LTL free-to-play. They will actually be 60 right around the time the raids release.
Right. So if you're just getting into the game because you saw the raids are getting released, this is sort of what you can kind of expect to be getting to max current level in the game. But yeah, as Tor mentioned, just probably 14 days from now until people who are free to play and started at global are getting to max level, which is important for sort of the next topic that we want to talk about, which is, of course, shard farming and getting characters to 7 stars. So I want to preface this with, I think people are pretty aware now that there's going to be, with probably the raid update, or we're assuming with the raid update, a change to the sort of scaling multipliers that each star level has. And so for 7 stars, it's the most drastic. It's going from a 2 times multiplier to a 4 times multiplier. And I can put a card up in the top of the video that kind of goes through those changes the basic changes that we talked about in a different video. But it's important because I think as we mentioned in the beginning of the video, there are a lot of people who think, oh, I'm just going to immediately get some characters to 7 stars and be able to beat out other characters.
Yes, that is I would say a common notion amongst the free-to-play right now, that they're beelining for 7 stars, which I want to preface is totally fine, right? We should definitely be playing the game for fun and set goals accordingly. I think if there's one takeaway I probably want people to have from listening to this, is probably that there is a cost to doing this. and we'll get into that. But as long as you have the information, go whatever your gut tells you, right? That's after all why we're all here.
Yep. Yeah, so just to sort of explain what this particular graph is, it's just that, again, number of days on the y-axis here, and you can see that based on what you're farming, either guild campaign here in the first two bars or this third bar here, which is the hard shard farming with no refreshes on any of these, it's a dramatic difference. You can get a lot more character shards from doing the guild campaign than the hard node campaign, and that really just comes down to you're limited for the hard node to 5 attempts a day, and you're not limited in the guild campaign. So I also wanted to include this last little bar here as a comparison to Swigo, CG's other game, right? So again, if you're not refreshing the node at all, the hard node shards in Swigo takes about close to 200 days to get fully to 7 stars. They have less shards that they need to get to 7 stars, but the drop rates are different. Whereas in Lord of the Rings, it's just north of 200. Probably it's like 220 days is right around there. But I think there's been this consensus, and this is very much the case, that there is now a massive premium on guild campaign characters, because this graph pretty much perfectly illustrates that. The time it takes to get those characters to 7 stars is dramatically less. 3 to 4 times even less than just doing these other hard node shard farms. But as Torm sort of alluded to, there's an opportunity cost to that. So why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So what we're basically trying to show here is that if Guild 1 is the baseline for gold earned per guild energy expenditure, because Ironhide is there, Pippin is there, Oklok is there, then we want to showcase that if you have the option, and you will, because even if you started as a free to play today, you will unlock Guild 2 relatively fast. It will take you maybe like a week, probably a little less maybe, and you will be actively losing out on gold opportunity, gold income, by keeping farming Guild 1. And it goes up, as you can see, by chapter, then by Guild 5, which is level 63.
53, yeah.
Yeah, it's a massive increase, right? And it's a lot of gold you are potentially missing out on. So doing these farms, even for 30, 40 days, I think is like 40 or 31, sorry. 31 days to do this 7 stars on a guild campaign character. It's a lot of guild energy, and it's a lot of gold you are potentially going to miss out on. So you have to be extremely sure that this is what you want to do, because there's no going back on this, right? This is a critical moment in an early account career, I would say. And there's no pivoting either, unfortunately, when you start down this path. Well, you could at any point, of course, but it's basically wasted effort in the end.
So on your own account, are you going back and farming any of these earlier guild chapters to get characters to 7 stars?
I would say the short answer is no, and the longer answer is no. Meaning that I have thought about it, and I have done the math on my own account, but strictly speaking, I need the gold far more than I need an Ironhide or Pippin or Oklok at 7 stars.
So then, are you worried about getting beat out in arena by potential 7-star arena teams, whether they're from Wales or from very focused free to plays?
I wouldn't say I'm particularly worried about it. I would say that, and this has always been my position on this upcoming star change potentially, I think it's not really needed right now. And the reason is I'm in Shard 1, same as you. I'm in the upper Mithril 1 lower Champions League for Arena. So I do these 5-star versus 7-star fights every day. And they are rough right now, right? As my arena team is mostly 5-star. I have a 7-star fully built Elver here, which is another topic we can maybe return to. But there's a massive gold cost to doing this for these characters. So, but I'm not particularly worried about it. No, I would say there's a lot of upcoming teams or players in the Mithril area right now in Shard 1.
Yep.
We even seem to have our first cheater as well. So so there's lots of stuff going on there. So no, I'm not particularly worried about it. I would say that's the timeline is quite generous. I would say for players such as ourselves. I'm actually more worried that free to play will end up in a worse state because they beeline so hard for these characters.
Yeah, I think that's something I want to talk about as well. And I think the advice I want to give people, especially free to play, eyeing these star changes, I don't think you should get super tunnel visioned on Arena. And that might sound like a the people who spend money are now worried about us coming for them in Arena. But I'm not really that worried like Torm is. Because I also have the ability to get resources for my arena team. And in fact, I have the ability to get resources faster because I spend money, and that's the name of the game, is spending money gives you resources and time, right? And so I don't think you should get super focused on arena, because if it's anything like Swigo, and we don't have a timeline for this, rewards and gem rewards are not going to be solely won in the arena, and there's going to be other game modes where the sum of the rewards you could get in those game modes far outweigh that in just climbing arena. And I think raids I hope they are going to be the sort of first iteration of that, in that if you have very good raid teams, then you are earning more different types of rewards, whether that be gold or gems or character shards or gear, whatever. And it's a better payoff in the long run than just having one 7-star arena team where you're able to maybe climb up to relatively towards the top of the arena.
Yes, I mean I would agree there, because there's again I don't think we have a slide specifically on this, but just to throw a number out there, to have one max level character, 7 stars, 6666 ability wise, that's an investment of 3.5 million gold, right? So and I think the problem is that there also seems to be a consensus in the free to play community that there's a lack of gold. So if we combine that with the fact that you are missing out on gold by going back and farming this, then that's where my concern for the free to play actually comes in. I mean, they can beeline to Ironhide and Oclog all day if they want to, but it will cost their accounts 2.5 million to do that for these two characters specifically, just in guild energy opportunity cost.
So do you think that there's maybe a sort of middle ground area here where there's some there's going to be some new star level that you should farm, specifically guild chapter characters to, before switching to just farming for gold in, let's say, chapter 5?
So it's a good question. I would say the 5-star variant, right? I'm still, so from a marquee perspective, right? I've bought Legolas to 5 stars. I'll buy Gimli to 5 stars as well, and then I'll probably wait and see, both because I'm not really that interested in the Fellowship and thus Gandalf, but also to see how the change will actually work in practice. Because we can theory craft all day long, but ultimately with the timelines there, I mean, I feel fairly safe in that regard, right? I earn roughly twice the amount of gold free to play would currently, so we can pivot much faster than if free to play can. There's no concern or anything on that regard.
Right.
Also, we don't know when Elrond will return. So that is another point. There will be tons of free to play players, hopefully, and I mean hopefully actually, that will unlock him for round 2. Given the timelines we showed a little earlier. I probably won't get 7-star there. I'm not doing refreshes for Lomian and Lilai anyway, so I have started buying Arwen through the supply store for gems.
Oh, interesting.
But this is just to get it done, to get a leg up on shard farming, right? I have Niramiri and Elrohi at 7 stars right now, so it's just a matter of getting either Lomian or Lie, whatever she's called, to 7-star on that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm actually in a different boat, in that my Elder here is 6 stars, and I am actually pretty starved for gold right now. So what I've been doing is going back, farming some shards, and then sort of doing hopping back and forth, and not just finishing the shard farm right away. And my reasoning there is simply that I go back, get one upgrade, and farm the gold to continue doing the upgrades. That way, at any given time, my roster is sort of upgraded to its max potential in that way. And then I'm hoping that that will sort of snowball in terms of resources that I eventually accumulate. But one other point that I sort of wanted to hit on was this cadence for marquees, and you touched on it. And it's been 2 marquees every month so far, and I'm not entirely convinced that that is a sustainable model, and I'm not entirely convinced that that's something that they're going to continue doing. And it was sort of just, they're pushing this out, the fellowship out, and now they're going to release the raids, and maybe the next marquees are going to be something like the Haradrim for the Witch King. So hopefully this break in marquees also gives people a chance to get more resources, people in our boats anyway, more resources. And then also it's just not something that free-to-play has to worry about that much. But I think the cadence between becoming a marquee, going to the gem store, and then eventually becoming farmable is going to be pretty critical, especially depending on how fast they plan on rotating through these legendary events. So it just kind of comes down to a lot of the details that we really don't know yet.
Yeah, I mean, my sentiment is exactly this. I would say though that two characters per month is probably not enough. Actually, I would actually maybe prefer 3, even if it's more costly in that sense. And this is simply because right now we don't actually have that many teams. So, I know a lot of people say, well, new characters aren't content, and I fully agree with that. It's just that, and people will start figuring this out when they hit level 60 as well. It's just that if your arena team is already done, which, I mean, for you and I mean, sure, we have maybe a couple of abilities we could feasibly do if we wanted to, at great cost in gold. But I mean, they work right now and they will work in the future, so there's not really a need. But this also means that we are in roughly 1.7, 1.9 million gold a week right now, as long as we keep the amount of refreshes we're doing. So we also get about 100 light or shadow crystals, depending on which one you farm there, a week. So this means that at a 2-week cadence for marquees, then we can feasibly take them up to level 60, gear 8 right off the hop. So I think it's probably in CG's interest to go a little faster, so that we maybe can get whales squeezed a little bit.
Well, I personally hope that is not the case, because I would prefer to spend less money on marquees. Are you planning, in what sort of scenarios are you planning on taking marquee characters to 5 stars? And on top of that, can you kind of discuss whether you think 5-star characters are viable at all anymore?
So we had some lively debate on this on Discord, and that's also one of the reasons why I made this suggestions or feedback post that I did. It is still the most commented and upvoted of any of the suggestion posts in the official forum, but there's been no official communication on it, so it's a little odd. But either way, I think that if the star change goes through as it is, then it's basically 7-star or bust, right? Because the increase is so massive, right, compared to what it is today. Today it's about 25%. So 5-star versus 7-star, that's about a 25% difference. And as I mentioned before, this is a very rough thing to actually do in arena. So if it goes from 25 to 60% increase, that's it seems a little silly, at least, right? There's maybe 40 people in the game globally that does 7-star, as a matter of fact. So why are we doing these changes for 40 people when there's 120,000 people maybe that is suffering in other areas, right? That makes no sense in my mind.
So what would you change about the upcoming star changes then to make them, if the changes are going through regardless, how would you address some of these concerns that you have? What changes would you make?
So if we say that we have to do a change,
Yeah.
I would very much want to understand the reasoning why, right? Because currently I see it as an unadulterated whale squeeze attempt, right? Which sits wrongly in my book, right? I don't mind, and this is what I've been very open about this, but I've done about $1,000 a month from start to now, basically. And the funny thing is that mentally I don't consider myself a kraken, right? Because I don't buy everything. But the journey to 60 was, I would say, probably a little more expensive than I realized once we started going. And I would say in the future my spend would actually be going down due to this, right? Because now that we're 60, we don't really need to be as aggressive on gem spend. We can feasibly just do the $120 on a marquee two times a month, and then do one big gem pack a month as well for just for refreshes, and then we could be basically running on autopilot for the rest of the game's career. We would have all new characters at level 60. We would be able to get them to gear tier 8 roughly without any major concern. So yeah, it would be fairly smooth sailing, I would say. So if the star change has to go through, then I would lower the the multiplier for 6 and 7 star, simply because it's not really needed today. So I'm actually a little concerned that it will backfire massively on CG, right? Because a number of the spenders in our league have expressed dissatisfaction about this, because there's some downsides to this approach, right? Obviously CG wants us to spend more money, right? It's a business. I fully accept that. I have no problems with it, right? They can squeeze me all they want. Scopely did as well, right? I don't really care about that. The trouble is that they basically will be taking whatever investments we are already doing and making them worthless. So Helberad is going to be hit quite heavily on this. They haven't noticed if there's any changes to his shard situation, right? But and that's basically $100 that you and I have spent on Helberad shards. Yeah, and that's basically out the window, right? And not due to power creep, right? Because I don't mind power creep. Power creep is expected, that's fine. But this change instantly, at a snap of a finger, just basically wipes him out. We will still be able to use him in other content, of course, but for Arena right now, there's other options that would be more appealing. So yeah, I think a lot of our spenders in our league are not looking to spend more in that capacity, right? We would probably pick up other offers, maybe, but for Marquee specifically, I think this is the wrong sort of squeeze, and I think it will backfire quite rapidly.
I agree that I will be spending less as a result of these star changes, because I agree that there is a lot of power in 7-star characters after the change. To me, before the change, it didn't really seem like stars lined up with, like, how much they cost did not line up with the power that they were giving people. And so I think for me, if they're going to go through with this star change, what I would like to see are changes to other parts of the economy. So definitely, like, as you mentioned, making sure that people's investments in characters like Halberad or Bolg are not gone to waste. And that would probably mean either increasing the number of challenge tokens you get or increasing the number of shards you get for those challenge tokens. That way he can be brought up in a reasonable amount of time and not like the year it takes if you're free to play. And he still becomes a good option if you're free to play, if you continue to focus on just using your challenge tokens there. But I think another sort of change I would like to see is, it's not a change, but the content, the future PvE content that they decide to add to the game, to make sure that it is not scaled in such a way that 7 stars are basically what you require to do a good chunk of the higher end content. Maybe, the very, very top requires 6 or 7 star characters, but I don't want to have to always get to 7 stars for all my characters for them to be any sort of competitive in doing raids. And something we mentioned at the start here is that we told free-to-play players, okay, we don't get tunnel visioned on Arena. And I think the people who have spent money like you and me also kind of do get focused on Arena when we're thinking about these particular changes. And so I can't beat a 7-star team with my team right now. I mean, that's going to definitely be the case after the fact, but I'm kind of trying to think more about what other forms of content this is going to impact and the adjustments they need to make to the economy there. I think we both agree that this change needed to happen before launch, but that's not the case. And I do think the change is probably going to go through. I don't think they're going to back off. They might modify some things, and that's why we're talking about it. But I do think this is probably going to go through if my money's on it. But what do you think about just making sure that the economy is sort of in balance with the new changes? Is that enough, or do you just want to also see a drastic reduction in the multipliers themselves?
Yeah, so I guess this is an interesting question. I would say from my current position, right, there is no gold issue, right? And there is no gold issue because we whale harder, right? So that is I guess by design, right? So from a free to player's perspective, though, there's like we mentioned earlier, right? There's a huge opportunity cost for some of these changes. So I'm definitely on your team there to. And I do not actually want them to do like they do in Twigo, where they have 7-star requirements for doing silly things, right? That I don't think that's the right way to go. The right way to go would be levels maybe and gear, because that's something everyone can do at least over time. They could do like minimum level 55 gear 7 or something like that, right? That's still a sizable investment. To actually do this, and it would take time for free to play to do as well. It would take us less time, of course, but that's the name of the game. Something like that, I think, is probably better than doing these star changes up front, because they, there's a lot of things that it will impact. To your point, right? I also don't understand why they want to go back on the challenges and regular story missions. And do changes there to reflect this star power. That seems a little heavy-handed and silly, to be honest, right? There's it should be something that is fairly easy to do without too much serious investment, right? Because again, 7-star for a free-to-play is months of work. So at least for a full team, right, it would be for you and I as well. And it just seems silly that the 120,000 people or so that is actively playing the game right now would be, in some cases, either penalized or be on because we already did them, right? So we would be in a better position just because we've already done them. So any changes do not matter there.
I haven't quite finished them.
Oh, then I guess you need to get going there.
Yeah, I know. And that is just a reminder to everybody that you need to be trying to push to finish as much of that current PvE content as you can, because we do not know how exactly they're going to be scaling the changes that they're making to the end of the story campaign and to the ends of the challenges as well. So just if it becomes astronomically hard and you do need 7 stars to do these types of things, then it's best to do it now, right? So that you have it unlocked. I think we've talked about a good chunk of what we kind of wanted to talk about. Is there any other specific points that you want to bring up?
No, I mean, thank you for the opportunity to speak with yourself in a live sort of fashion. I am hoping that we will see Haradrim as the next marquise, but that's also because I already built them to GT8 level 60, right? So I'm prepared for that. But they look like a fun team, right? They will, if the data mines are correct, they will be the Phoenix team from Swago, right? So I think a new player recommendation would change and everything.
Definitely.
But yeah, I think there's a lot of good things coming. It's just a shame it has to go so slow, but that's the name of the game.
Yeah, and thanks for joining me today. And Torm, where can people find you? Either your content or online?
They are more than welcome to give me a ping on Discord, right? Just at TormDK is probably the way to get to me. My recordings are posted in the various channels in the official Discord. So like, I have Rangers as an example. I did some videos on those. I did some videos on the Dunlands, right? The Dunlanding team. I help the dwarf team, the guys that fancy dwarves, right? We have some videos of there as well. So go into the respective channels in the official discords for the team, and you'll probably see me there.
I can post a link to your channel down below as well in the description so that people can just go click that and check it out right away. Well, thanks for joining us for today's the inaugural episode of this sort of podcast style series that we're going to maybe do every once in a while when there's a lot of things to talk about more in depth. I hope you enjoy it, and feel free to comment down below if you'd like to see more of these types of things, or what other in-depth topics you think we should be covering. And thanks again to Torm for coming on to this first episode, and thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.